Hi, I'm Frank Pollock, and I'm excited to be part of the Three Sips of Advice podcast. Before I get to the questions Jim has asked me to address, I want to send a special thanks to him. He's invited me down to Wilmington a number of times, and I've met lots of great people there. So it's easy to see why it's a top 100 startup ecosystem. I'm recording from Provident 1898, which is a co-working space in Durham. If you're ever here in the area, please swing in. They've got a wonderful, diverse, and fun atmosphere. And last but certainly not least, I'll be sipping as I record Marcola coffee soda. So here's the syrup. But the founder of the company, Mark Dahlman, is a mad scientist barista and an awesome guy. So I highly encourage you to check it out. So question one. Oh, wait a second. Question one. So what's the number one mistake I see early stage companies making when it comes to marketing? Without question, it is not taking marketing seriously enough. Now, an important qualifier here. I have worked with startups as far east as Wilmington, as far west as Charlotte, within the state of North Carolina. I've also had early stage companies that are clients in Sacramento, in Henderson, Nevada, and in San Francisco. So I have a pretty good gauge for these kinds of things. But here in this area, marketing always seems to be an afterthought. Now that shows up in one of three ways. One is when I talk to the founder, he or she can't articulate a clear marketing strategy. It's always something around, some SEO or a little bit of user acquisition or that kind of stuff. Completely get the importance of that. But marketing strategy is actually a bigger endeavor. Number two, the second way that it shows up is usually when the founder quotes a guru. So Gary Vee is kind of the guru of the day. Before him, it was Seth Godin, and before him there was someone else. But gurus are kind of a one-size-fits-all solution, as opposed to a solution that's really tailored for your company and the unique marketing and growth challenges that you have. And then three is under hiring for the marketing role. Even when companies get a chance to scale up a little bit, and get some funding, they hire someone who is, and they have a unicorn job description, and they hire someone that's really not built for the task. So those are the three areas that usually show me that marketing has not been taken seriously, and they're consistent across the board. Question two. Jim asked me to explain my partnership with NC IDEA, and also to talk about the three recommendations I usually make to companies that I work with through NC IDEA. So I am part of the ecosystem there, and I'm a mentor. In addition, I read applications for their smaller grant. I scrub and help develop presentations for the $50,000 grant. And then I have taught in the NC IDEA's summer school. And finally, I mentor companies that they refer to me. So, most people are familiar with the grants. They do 5 to 10K in the smaller grants, and I, read 5 to 10 applications for that, each cycle. The seed grant, though, is obviously a more competitive endeavor. And so for the grant, I take, when the companies come in to prepare for their pitch, the NC IDEA brings together, a couple of staffers, a couple of outside experts, and usually a functional expert. So I do a lot of stuff with consumer products, but also, B2C and B2B software applications. But I go in and we, as a group, review the presentation for style, for substance. Then we go through a very rigorous Q&A, and we bang them up pretty good, so we'll be prepared to give the best possible presentation. Summer school is one of the endeavors to help raise the skills of the entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. And so I've done talks about, overall marketing strategy, about branding, and areas within marketing. And then last, but certainly not least, NC IDEA will, when there's a company that has won one of the grants and they're continuing to look for additional resources in marketing, they'll refer them to me. And I'm happy to sit down with them and give them a few sips of advice or whatever. But the goal there is to help build the overall skill level of the organization so they can scale as rapidly as possible. When I sit down and talk with them, there are three things that I usually talk about. One is honing in on the message and the target audience. Make sure that you have as clear a message that stems from your value proposition and your brand to say, this is who we are, what we do, how we solve your problem, and then who you're solving that problem for. Nail that down in your communication. Now that may change in a pivot, but want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of how to communicate it and to run your community. Two is a measurement strategy. Data-driven marketing is, the big thing. Marketing's always been data-driven. That's a conversation for another time. But you can now structure your analytics system to track all kinds of things along the conversion path. And you can see where people are dropping out and then experiment there to become more effective in your conversion process. And so making sure that that is a well thought out and well executed, and then a monitored and evaluated process is critical to success. And the third thing I would say is make sure that you talk to some folks outside of the organization about marketing. I get that, lots of people are heads down, trying to build a product, gotta ship stuff. But, make sure that you use the resources around you and really talk to professional marketers who have some gray hair or a lack of hair, who have startup experience, not just marketing expertise. And there will be plenty of value that comes from that conversation. Always, the three things that when I tell people, I tell companies that I talk about at NCIA. And then the third question Jim asked me, you played for UNC's basketball team. What are the lessons that you took away from the memorable coaches of your life? Oh, gotta get my sip in. So I played on the JV basketball team at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, way back in the day. And the memorable coaches, obviously, Coach Smith, I did not interact with him, on a daily basis. The JV team is coached by one of the assistants. Randy Wheel was my head coach. But I've had coaches that were memorable going back to my time as, fifth grade. I'm also from Kinston, as a side note, and so if you know anything about basketball, you know that Kinston has produced more NBA players per capita than probably any other place on earth. We've had a player in the NBA from Kinston every year since like 1979. But there are a few things that were remarkably consistent across the board with all these guys. Number one was the sense of selflessness. Carolina, we used to have practice plans and quotes. One of my favorite quotes was, "There's no limit to what can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit." Number two, there's always structure. So, we had really thoughtful practice plans. We knew what was going to happen, and it was timed down to the second. We had to hustle from one station, one drill, one effort to the next. And the third was the sense that the coach really cared for me. More than anything, my coach from the fifth or sixth grade, I could walk up to him tomorrow and sit down and have lunch with him and catch up on life. My junior high school coach has since passed away, but I saw him at the hospital, maybe a month and a half before he passed away, and he was immediately Frank. It's that kind of family atmosphere that those great coaches cultivate. So those are the three questions Jim asked me to address. Thanks again, Jim, for having me, and to all of you for tuning in. And enjoy whatever you're sipping on. I want to get back to my Marcola.